And while I was on my travels, I got a new controller, so I can actually drive them now.
Well, you better be able to this time, otherwise
no more excuses.
Reputation's at stake.
Some people might have missed it earlier on in the show. They might have only been joining partway through. So let's run through these for anyone who has missed it.
Right, so 50% completion in festival playlist was the Lexus LFA. Amazing that Lexus is back.
Yep.
And then in a seasonal championship, also in summer, we had It's Never Over with the Rover, the SD1. And then in winter, for 50% completion of festival playlist, we had the Aston Martin Vulcan AMR Pro. And in a championship that same week in winter, Ford Supervan 3. Which one should we look at first, Mike?
Well, I think you've got to. We should always start with the very best. So let's go for the Rover.
It's good. It's a good chance for us all to have a little bit of a nerd out on this one.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, a lot of people I think go, oh, a Rover, but it's actually got a lot of history to it, hasn't it, this car?
Right. How long have you got? 20 minutes? Shall we go?
Well, go ahead. Go and tell us about the car, guys.
So, yeah, this was kind of Rover's foray into fast saloons. You were saying it was actually quite forward-thinking for when it was released. And it was penned by the same man that did the Ferrari 365 Daytona?
No, it was influenced heavily by the 365 Daytona. The guy...
did he use a piece of tracing paper?
Yeah, you can definitely see the influence on it, the slanty nose, on the front of it with that. But he was also responsible for a lot of the design work on the Range Rover as well, and you can definitely see that. But yeah, it's a really advanced design for its time. A lot of the materials when they designed it inside was meant to make it feel very futuristic. Matt, you had an interesting fact about the dashboard as well.
Oh yeah, this this design that you see here is easily made left or right hand drive.
Yeah, so it's like a whole binnacle that they could just shift from one side to the other. It was really clever. The fact it was a hatchback for the boot or tailgate opening, depending where you're from. That was quite uncommon at the time. A lot of the cars were either saloons or station wagons, and they decided that Rover owners of the future wanted a hatchback, and so that was that. And yeah, in a lot of ways, it sadly didn't quite live up to the quality of the design and how good a car it was.
Yeah, I think with it being from British Leylands, they had a reputation for lorries and trucks and buses and things at the time. They wanted to step into the executive car market, and I think they turned internally to Triumph and Rover. This is the same controller.
Is it really?
Yes, it was just like driving off into a field while I wasn't looking there. They had an internal competition, and they went with the Rover design and gave it to their specialist division, hence the name SD1, first project from the specialist division. And it was also 1970s, 1980s Britain at the time, so although there were huge waiting lists for the car, because it was really impressive to journalists and the public alike, huge waiting lists started to form, but strikes and production line issues just meant that they never met the demand for the car, and the cars they did build had some quality issues. So
but it's still a 3.5 litre V8 rear-wheel drive, like you say, British performance saloon.
Yeah, so it's a Buick engine, right?
It's a Buick. Well, yeah, it started off life as a Buick engine, and famously the Rover V8 ran from like 60s, 70s all the way through to the early 2000s, one of the longest productions of an engine. But it also went on to actually be quite successful in British touring cars as well. V8, but it was back in the era where it was still a mix between, say, old Minis and things like the Rover SD1.
Yeah, it has sort of really become an icon of Britain as well. Like, you think of all the sort of police chases and getaways on TV and films over the years that you've seen.
Yeah, also starred in "Don't You Want Me, Baby" by the Human League, the music video.
There you go.
I think we may have done all of our drive facts.
And that is the point where it's time to move on. So, so this car is available in summer in the It's Never Over with a Rover Championship. What car should we look at next, Chris?
Should we jump into another British legend, the Vulcan AMR Pro? In an absolutely amazing colour. So the Vulcan, we're already having the game. There's only 24 of them in the real world. And if you're one of the people that owns one of those 24 cars, you can upgrade it to the AMR Pro package. So that's going to add 25% more downforce to your car. Horsepower stays the same. It's 5 kilos lighter, I believe. And it's just absolutely bonkers performance.
How much does that package cost?
I don't think anybody actually knows.
If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
It's not public knowledge, I don't think.
Does that just remove you from the list, does it?
Yeah, they come and take the Vulcan off of you.
So it produces something like 20% more downforce, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 25% more, but the really astonishing figure is it produces more than Aston Martin's Vantage GTE car, so their actual race car. It's making more downforce than that.
Yeah, it's quite pronounced, the visual differences as well. Like the front bumper, you can see that it's got the big dive planes on it.
Yeah.
And
Does
big
the
front
icon
splitter.
on that yellow button look like ice cream sundae to anybody else?
Oh, do you? Yeah, that's your ice cream sundae dispenser.
Nice.
Essential on a track day.
It might be a radio, but we'll go with ice cream sundaes.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that.
Yeah.
Well, if it isn't a thing, it should be. Definitely.
So yeah, if you
Does
need
Kimi
your
Räikkönen have one in his
track
car?
car to be even more ridiculous, then this is the upgrade package. That you
And who doesn't? When you're buying a track car, you want the most ridiculous version
That's
available.
right.
I imagine the uptake on this version of it would have been pretty high, because if you're already in that very small group of people who is able to purchase this car in the first place, you probably
Yeah,
could get
like Chris says, money's no object, right? So you just go for it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
made by the Q division. They do like the bespoke Aston Martin stuff.
Yeah,
Very cool.
definitely playing into a little franchise tie-up there.
Yes. Yeah.
It's excellent. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty much as fast you can go in a private track day car, not a race
Probably
car.
not in Britain because it's too loud for
No,
the noise regs.
Very true.
Yeah.
It does sound absolutely phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
So the 7-litre V12 in this is one of the most special engines ever made, I think.
Great, and that is available for completing 50% of the festival playlist in winter.
That's right.
All right, should we take a look at the van?
hmm
Yeah.
Another piece of legendary British engineering.
Yeah, this is also a car that I've been trying to get into the game for a long time, all the way back to, I think, H2 I started trying to get it into the game. We were luckily, so Ford down at Dagenham have a secret collection of some of their past cars. We got access to that, and this is one of the cars we sourced, luckily.
When you say we, was it one of you two that went down there for
unfortunately
the
not,
shoot?
no, it was one of our sourcing team. They had a very special day because I've seen what that collection has in it, and there's some incredible cars in there, and some more that are going to be coming in the next few series as well, actually.
Cool.
So this car was built to celebrate the launch of the Mark III Transit.
Yeah.
It's actually built on top of the Supervan 2, but with the Mark III body in 7/8 scale. Powering it used to be a Cosworth HB Formula 1 engine, but in recent years Ford have taken that out to put a more usable 3-litre V6 in it, so that press can drive it and your everyday person rather than Formula 1 drivers. That's the version we've got because the car we source is the car we build, and that's what it currently is. So we stay true to that. But there are engine swaps to put the classic racing V12 in it and the racing V8 as well. So you can still give it the F1 power levels.
So you were talking about the seating position before, weren't you?
Yeah, so you'd think this is to make it central and more race car. It's actually because when you open the door, there's a air vent that goes straight into the back where the engine is. So they've moved the driver a couple of feet just to get some air into the back of the car.
It's also a really strangely letterbox sort of view that you get out of it. If you've
Yeah.
ever sat in a van and how high up and how good your visibility is, it's really strange to.
I can't even imagine what this would be like to drive. Like a transit van, you drive like this. Like try
Yeah.
driving like a 700 horsepower F1 powered car like that. It just
It would be very odd.
Is there much storage space in the back? Can you fit your tools in there?
No, there's a 3-litre V6 in the back. Yeah.
So it's probably small talker.
I love this classic Ford blue and white livery as well.
It's super
Yeah.
90s, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's really
exactly.
cool.
And I think at one point in its life it was painted as a Royal Mail van.
Yeah, it did a brief stint doing press work for Royal Mail. So-
Amazing. Well, there's the challenge for the livery creators. So this
Yeah.
car will be
So-
available on.
In 10 minutes' time, they'll be doing that.
Well, the update doesn't go live just yet, does it? So I suppose for livery creators, that car will be available as soon as the patch goes live, right? You'll be able to jump in there inside the livery tool anyway. You won't actually be able to drive it for a little while after that because it's not available until winter. In the Is It a Bird, Is It a Plane? No, it's Supervan Championship. So
That's right.
Oh dear. Right, and we've got one more.
Should we finally jump into the car I think everyone's waiting to see, which is the amazing LFA?
You get to cars in such a strange way, Matt.
Why? How do you do it?
Let me just give you a pro strat, right? Just so you're driving,
Yeah.
you pause the game, and you'll notice that one down is change car, and you can just jump into there.
Yeah, that's it.
You do what I do. I always tab all the way along to the end.
Do you know, it's because I usually go to the car collection screen. I'm usually working in that area, so I'm just have it.
It's okay. It's okay. We can't all be experts at the game. It's fine. Just,
all right, you can drive it then, Mike.
Cool. So I guess the long-awaited Lexus LFA. It's cool. We've got the active aero up already. Chris, you had some really good facts about the dials in this one, didn't you?
Yes, it was one of the first cars to use an LCD display, and Lexus's reason for it was the engine can rev so quickly because it has such a lack of inertia that it was outpacing the analog gauges, so they had to move to something more digital that could actually keep up with the way it was revving.
It's really cool the way it's got the stages of illumination. So it's just white when you're revving normally, and then you get towards the optimum shift point and it goes green, and then you over rev it and it goes red. And if you've seen that in a real one, you'd probably be slightly worried, wouldn't you? But it's
a very high revving engine.
It is, yeah.
It is. It's also a very different V10 to things like the Lamborghini and the Audi V10. Very different sound, which I think our audio guys have done a great job capturing. In fact, it's the audio asset is a Lexus LFA, especially worked up for this car, and it really captures the kind of the raw character of that V10.
Yeah, so a completely bespoke car. The engine, everything not shared with any other Toyota or Lexus. They made it specially for this car as like an engineering exercise.
Yeah.
And it led to the car being quite expensive, but also like no compromise for the driving experience.
It's considered even to this
right,
day.
there's a real drift on the stick, isn't there? it's like straight. No, we're going right now.
See, I wasn't kidding you.
Yeah,
So just praising the Lexus LFA's handling and
These dev controllers, they see a lot of wear.
Yeah, this has definitely been borrowed from QA.
Yeah. Definitely lost a few Eliminator matches.
Gripping
by a
the
very
control
small
really
margin,
tightly.
yeah.
Like,
This is, even to this day, this is regarded as one of the greatest cars ever built. I think it's one of Jeremy Clarkson's favourite cars still. And he's a man that gets to drive every amazing car.
And they've said they don't want to build another one, or at least not in the near future.
No.
So its status is very much like cemented in car culture and history.
I'd argue they don't need to either.
Exactly.
It still
They know they
looks so fresh as well, considering how old the design is. I think I can't remember exactly, you have to forgive me, but the project started in about 2000.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's now a 20-year-old design, effectively.
Yeah, it doesn't look it, does it?
In fact,
No.
they had a full working prototype, but it was before carbon fibre was still was something that was actually
feasible
usable.
option,
Yeah. And then once that became something that they could actually manufacture, they pretty much binned off the whole project to go back to something that was mainly carbon fibre construction.
Oh, wow.
So that's the kind of timescale they just kept going until it was what they deemed to be perfect, and I think they managed it. It's a timeless car as well because they didn't go for the high performance numbers. They tried to make something that's so amazing to drive. So it's what's called lift neutral. It doesn't make downforce. It doesn't make any lift. It's actually a very hard thing to do aerodynamically, but what it means is the grip you have is all about its mechanical grip. So it makes it incredibly easy to read and drive. Yeah, it's a car that I don't think we'll see many like it ever again.
So like different from the rest of the portfolio as well for Lexus and Toyota.
Yeah, so thank you, Toyota, for letting us have it back.
Yeah, really for a while, didn't it? It really just raised the cool factor of the entire Lexus range.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't afford, or even get, if you could afford it, an LFA, but it makes you look at the badge with a bit more of a cool factor.
And even to this day, you
absolutely.
can still see that kind of ethos still lingering in Lexuses. The ISF is one of the last normally aspirated V8 cars going. Whenever all its competitors have now gone forced induction, they've kept with that high revving V8.
Yeah, this did a lot of development work at the Nürburgring as well, and it was always really cool to watch them developing, and that sort of brought back to the attention of a lot of people that all these manufacturers were developing all these amazing cars on that amazing circuit.
They did a Nürburgring special edition of it, didn't they?
It was a very interesting shade of orange.
Yeah.
which I probably wouldn't buy my LFA in.
I love it in the white or the blue, the kind of deep metallic blue it comes in.
Love the triple tailpipe.
Oh, you had an interesting one on that earlier, didn't you?
Yeah. I read today that apparently the exhaust is stored within a transmission tube on the car. So rather than sort of finding the available gaps and running to the back of the car, it follows the transmission down this tube in the centre. So I guess that might explain why it has those central 3 exits.
It looks great.
It does, and I imagine that contributes to the sound as well of a really interesting, unique V10.
And players can get this in summer for completing 50% of the festival playlist. So that will be available from, I guess this Thursday.
That's right.
So as soon as the season changes, you'll be able to get your hands on this. We've got a couple more things to look at. First of all is the new cars being added to Eliminator.
Yes.
Max, do you want to talk to us about those?
Yeah, so in the last update, we added the Horizon Heavyweights, a bunch of cars that were all themed around being big and large. This time around, they are the Patrol and Pursuit pack. That's what we called the theme. So I'm not going to read them out from a list this time. You guys can explore and see what we've added for yourselves. But there are a selection of cars that are all specialised for giving pursuit to other cars, basically. So they've all got patrol lights on them. Some of them have got more extensive upgrades as well. So we've got things like the Hillman Imp in there at the bottom, at the end of the spectrum, and the Jaguar Mark II 3.8 litre with the police lights and the classic siren on there. And then in the middle, we've got, say, the Crown Victoria, which I'm pleased to report has working police lights, and the Chevrolet Impala. And then right at the top, we've got the Bugatti Veyron with the pursuit lights on there as well. So your opponents will know that you mean business when they see you in their rear view mirrors with the lights flashing as you're chasing them down.
Going.
Exactly. So yeah, this should be a nice new addition to the Eliminator mode.
Amazing. And I can see that we've chosen to use a picture of the Crown Vic that doesn't have the lights on.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there.
Perfectly demonstrating your point.
I can promise you they do work now.
Yes. Okay. So I know that's been I think that people have been asking for a lot. So that's the work in Eliminator and across the rest of the game.
That's right. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So we just have a few minutes left. I am just going to run through the other updates and fixes.